Welcome back to the channel. You're watching Sawtooth Tactical, and in this video we are talking home defense, and specifically my top 5 choices in firearms for home defense. Now when it comes to home defense, there are a lot more things to consider than just firearms, and maybe we'll do that in a separate video, but this video is specifically about the guns. And there are a few things specifically that I look for in a home defense gun that I think must be present. Number one is reliability. You want to make sure that if you find yourself in a situation where you have to use a firearm defensively, that it's gonna work. So that is number one. Besides that, I think every home defense gun should have a light and a red dot optic. And we'll go deeper into that with each of these guns, but to me that's very important, as well as high capacity. Hopefully, in a home defense situation, you don't need to use all those rounds, but you definitely don't want to run out of rounds. Nobody ever said they wish they had less capacity in a defensive situation. So if that sounds interesting to you, make sure you're subscribed and let's get started. Number 5 is going to be your full-size striker-fired handgun. Now my choice is the Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0, but it can be whatever your favorite full-size striker-fired pistol is, as long as it's something reliable. Glock, CZ, Walther, Smith & Wesson, something like that. But the reason that I say full-size handgun is for a few reasons. For one, you can put a full-size light on it, which is gonna have more lumens, more candela than like a micro light. But for two, you also get a high capacity. This one with standard flush fit magazines is 17 plus 1 in the chamber. That is a pretty good amount of rounds. Hopefully you don't need more than 18 rounds in a home defense situation. But for 3, a full-size handgun is easier to shoot well. I shoot this better than I shoot this. And while I could shoot that just fine, when you're at home, you don't need to have considerations as far as being able to carry comfortably or having to conceal something and not print. So you might as well go big. Go big or go home. Well, go big at home. Because generally, and this is pretty much true across the board, people shoot full-sized handguns better than compact and micro compact handguns. You just have more grip on it. You can control recoil easier. More weight means the gun absorbs recoil better. You can get more shots on target faster, and you have more shots to put on target if you need to. Now, when I say a full-size handgun, again, reliability, number one. But like I said in the intro, light and optic. Most bad things, or at least many bad things, happen at night. And it is dark half the time on this planet. And a lot of people are at work during the day. So a home defense situation, there's a good chance it's going to happen at night. So make sure you have a light. And the reason that I say an optic is this. You wake up in the middle of the night and you pull out your gun, you're not going to be as on point as you are when you go to the range and you're set up and ready to go shooting. And so having to line up iron sights, especially in the dark when you're half asleep, might be tough. Whereas a red dot, you can be target focused, intruders coming in, put the dot on your target and pull the trigger as fast as you can. A full-size handgun is a great way to go. You could keep it on your bedside. It doesn't take up a lot of room, but as long as you practice with it, you can be pretty competent with it. Now, are you going to shoot this as well as a rifle? Probably not, and that's why it's at number 5. Quick word from this video's sponsor. I've been using Aura now for a couple of months. I know you guys have seen it in my videos if you've been watching, and it's a product and a service that I really actually believe in at this point. It has totally stopped me from getting spam calls. Now, data brokers are a real thing these days. Scammers, spammers, all this stuff. I've been trying to sell a pickup truck lately, And at first, all I was getting was scammers. Well, Aura took care of that, and I'm not hearing from the scammers anymore. Unfortunately, I still haven't sold the truck, but I've got a lot of examples like that. In fact, the place where I work just recently got scammed, and we lost out on a whole day's worth of revenue. Well, Aura can stop things like that from happening. They search the entire internet for anywhere where your information is being sold to people, and they submit opt-out requests on your behalf, which takes care of your information being out there. It clears you up so that you stop getting spam calls. You stop getting scammers. There are people out there these days whose whole career is just scamming people out of their money by finding their information on the internet. And as sickening and as sad as that is, it's a reality. And for only $12 a month, you can stop them from being able to take advantage of you. If you use my link, which is the first link in the description, aura.com/sawtooth-tactical, you get to try it out free for 2 weeks. And then you can decide if it's something that you still want to stick with. But Aura is pretty confident that you'll stick with it, and that's why they give you that 2-week free trial. $12 a month after that is a really good deal for all of the different things that you get with Aura. I've been sticking with it for a few months. I'm really happy with it. I respect my privacy and I respect yours. Number 4 is going to be a short-barreled AR-15 chambered in 5.56. Now there is a reason that this is not higher on the list, but I still think that it is a really good choice for home defense. Now a short barrel specifically because home defense is CQB, civilian CQB. If you have to move around in your home, if you have to be able to get down hallways and through bedrooms, whatever, you got to be able to move around. Something shorter is going to be more maneuverable and easier to move around with than something with a long barrel. And also with a shorter gun, you're probably going to have a 1x optic. Again, like I said, light and optic are necessary, as well as reliability. And ARs, as long as they're decent quality ARs, are generally very reliable. But what do you get with this that you don't get with this? Well, for one, you get multiple points of contact, and so it's easier to shoot accurately. And I just feel more confident, and so does everyone that shoots an AR, than I feel with a handgun. Besides that, you get capacity. Now, because of YouTube, I'm not going to say how many rounds are standard in an AR-15, but you guys probably already know what that is. That's a decent capacity. Now, again, hopefully you don't have to use a whole magazine worth of rounds, but it is comforting to know that you can if you need to, especially if there ends up being multiple intruders. Now, a lot of people with 5.56 talk about over-penetration, but I've done the research, and 5.56 actually over-penetrates less than a lot of other things, including most handgun rounds, including shotgun, like buckshot or slugs. When 5.56, I mean, anything is going to go through drywall, is going to go through walls, multiple walls. No matter what you're shooting, any projectile is going to do that. But a light, fast bullet is actually going to carry through walls less than a slower moving, heavier projectile. So I don't think over-penetration is necessarily something you have to worry about so much with the AR-15 like people think that you do. And if it is something that you're worried about, 5.56 is around that. There are tons of variations of it out there. You can get frangible ammo, you can get, expanding hollow points, you can get lots of different stuff, and you can find something that will penetrate less. But an AR is just a very easy gun to shoot. Almost everyone knows how to run one and can be really confident with it. You can pick this thing up in the middle of the night. Again, target focus with that red dot, light for all the same reasons we talked about with the last gun. And it's just pretty easy to put rounds on target with something like this. Now, the one big problem with 5.56, for one, out of a shorter barrel, yes, you get less muzzle velocity, less terminal ballistics, but I promise you, even this 11.5-inch barrel, a 5.56 is a more devastating round than any handgun round is going to be. The big problem is shooting 5.56 indoors, especially if it's unsuppressed, is going to have a ridiculous amount of sound and concussion. And if you don't have time to put on ear pro when someone is kicking in your door in the middle of the night, which you probably will not have time to do, that is going to be a problem. And people talk about auditory exclusion, excuse me, where your hearing doesn't get damaged somehow when you're in a tense, high stress situation like that. That might happen, it might not. But that is the reason that this is number 4. Now, if you do have a suppressor, that will help. And I do have a 5.56 suppressor coming for my 5.56 guns. Number 3 is going to be a 2011 derivative. This is a Springfield Armory Prodigy double stack 1911. And it is no secret that almost everybody shoots a 2011 better than they shoot a striker fired handgun. Now, this does have all of the same benefits as the number 5, as the full-size striker-fired gun, but with added benefits as well. Now, as long as it's reliable, and I've tested this with a few thousand rounds by now, and I know that it's reliable. But again, you get the full-size light, you get the optic, you get even more capacity generally with the 2011. These are 20-round standard magazines. You can even get 26-round magazines for them. One issue, you are going to have to deal with running a manual safety. And so that is something that you're going to want to train with, and train with a lot, so that it's automatic that you put it on fire as you're presenting your firearm. But the thing about this is this gun makes me feel extremely confident. I can put more rounds on target accurately, faster than I can with any other type of handgun. And that seems to be true across the board for 2011s. You put a 2011 in the average pistol shooter's hands, and they are going to shoot better than they normally do. It works for me. It works for everyone that I've let shoot this. It's just, there's something about the 1911 grip angle, about just the way that these guns run. They have very, very easily controllable recoil compared to most polymer frame striker fired guns. And so it's just really easy to keep that dot on target and to get a lot of rounds off really fast. Again, 9mm, because it's a pistol round, yes, it's not going to be as effective as far as terminal ballistics as a rifle round is. And you might actually have a little bit more over penetration. I know that seems backwards than you would with something like 5.56. But again, as long as you run the right ammunition, defensive hollow point ammo, that should help negate those issues. And the thing about running 9mm is if you're not suppressed, 9mm has a lot less sound and concussion than a rifle round does if you have to shoot it indoors. And again, like I said, you probably won't have time to put ear pro on. So something with less sound and concussion in a home defense situation is your friend. Number 2 is a pistol caliber carbine. Now mine is an AR pattern, 9mm AR. This is an Aero Precision EPC9 that I built myself. It was actually my first AR build. But this could be a very good home defense gun. It is really short, much shorter even than the 11.5-inch AR here. So it's extremely maneuverable. And in fact, if you look at when I'm holding this out with the gun shouldered, it actually sticks out less than if I'm presenting a pistol. So you can keep it really nice and tight to you, maneuver around very easily, but you get all of the benefits of a rifle platform in that you can shoulder it, you have multiple points of contact, it's a very stable shooting position. When you go to present it, the optic, the red dot comes into your line of sight very naturally every single time. It's really easy to mount a light on something like this. And in fact, I've even upgraded this light setup recently. We will be talking about that in a video soon. And I've got a higher optic mount coming for it because I think that being heads up and being aware is good for home defense. But again, make sure that it's reliable. It doesn't have to be an AR-9. It could be a B&T. It could be a MP5. Any kind of pistol caliber carbine, you can run, again, the same defensive hollow points that you would run in any of your handguns. But you've got much higher capacity with these Glock Fun Sticks or whatever your preferred PCC runs, Scorpion mags, MP5 mags. They all have very, very high capacity. Capacity, light, red dot, but the added control that you have with a rifle type platform. Now this one is SBR'd, but you can build one of these with a pistol brace and not have to go through the NFA process, and it'll basically do the same thing for you. Now again, why would you use a PCC and not a rifle? Well, that concussion, that blast, that sound, 9mm is going to be a lot less deafening and disorienting than shooting a rifle round indoors will be. But again, if you can get a suppressor for it, even better. Whip Machine and Tool did send me their Mod 1 9mm suppressor for this. I'm just waiting on ATF approval. And then this is going to be a very formidable home defense gun. Now it already is, but again, if you don't have the time to put those ear pro on, if you can be suppressed, you might as well be suppressed in a home defense situation, in my opinion. You want to be able to communicate with your family if you have to in that kind of situation. Communicate with the police when they show up. And so anything that you can do to save your hearing is, again, a good thing in my opinion. I think if you have a reliable pistol caliber carbine, this is a gun that is very, very easy to shoot fast and accurate, especially at short to mid-range distances like you would have in a home defense situation. And I think that this is a great option for home defense. Before I go into number one, I want to address the elephant in the room, because number one is not a 12 gauge shotgun. And I know that lots of people in the comments probably are going to tell me that I'm wrong because a 12 gauge shotgun is the best thing for home defense. Well, I disagree. And I disagree for a whole handful of reasons. For one, a shotgun minimum barrel length to not be an NFA item is 18 inches. So that's a longer barrel than either of these. That's a 14.5 and that's a 16-inch barrel. 18 inches, that is a long gun to have to try to maneuver around in your house. It's big and it's unwieldy and it's kind of front heavy. Take it from me, I've shot a lot of shotguns, but I don't use them for home defense. For number two, they have very high recoil compared to anything that I put on this list. Now, be a man, control the recoil. Yes, I can shoot a shotgun just fine. Do I want to have to deal with that recoil in a home defense situation? No, I want to be able to put rounds on target as fast as I can without worrying about what the recoil is doing to my sight picture, my balance, because you're not going to be in that perfect stance that you are when you're at the range practicing. It's going to be a very hectic situation that is unfolding very rapidly, and I don't want to have to deal with something affecting me that way when I'm half asleep. Number three, capacity. Your general capacity with a shotgun is not very good, especially compared to something like this, or something like this, or even something like a handgun. You don't get very high capacity with shotguns at all. So you've got high recoil, low capacity, a big unwieldy gun. And then the other thing about it is reliability. And I'm not saying that shotguns aren't reliable, but either you're going to have a semi-auto shotgun, which I've ran those, and generally you have to find the right load for it to be reliable, and it has to be pretty much a high brass load with enough powder charge to be able to cycle the bolt reliably. And so, again, then you're going for higher recoil. Or you're going to have a pump action, which means that you're going to cycle it manually yourself. And are you going to have the wherewithal to not short stroke it in that situation when you're dealing with possibly multiple home intruders? I don't know. Maybe you train and practice enough that that's automatic for you. Maybe you don't, but something that you know is going to cycle reliably just by pulling the trigger, to me, that's just a better bet than either a pump action or a semi-auto shotgun that I have to worry about what kinds of loads I'm going to run. Now, a lot of people say, oh, well, a shotgun, you don't really have to aim because of the spread. Well, the spread within a home defense distance might be about as big as your fist, and that's probably down the longest hallway in your home. It doesn't spread as much as you think, unless you're using like birdshot or something, and birdshot is probably not going to have the desired effect on an intruder. It'll pepper him up pretty good, like Dave Chappelle says, but it might not completely stop the threat like a number 4 buck or a double aught buckshot or even a slug will. But again, those things are going to have more over penetration. They're not really going to have the spread that you think they do. You do have to aim a shotgun, and it's just going to be harder of a gun to deal with, in my opinion, than anything on this list. And so that is why I don't have a 12 gauge shotgun on my top 5 home defense guns. Now, number 1, and if you watch the channel, you already know what it is. It is a suppressed 300 Blackout SBR short-barreled rifle or pistol. Now, 300 Blackout for multiple reasons. For one, you can either run subsonic or supersonic ammunition through them, and as long as you have it tuned correctly, it should be able to run both reliably. Now, supersonic rounds are going to be absolutely devastating. Subsonic rounds are also very, very good. A lot of people say, well, it's, not much more than a 45 ACP. Well, 45 ACP is pretty great, but this has a better ballistic coefficient. It's a more aerodynamic bullet, and it suppresses ridiculously well. So if you're running subs in this thing with a suppressor, it's going to be hearing safe even without your ear pro. So going back to that ear pro argument about probably not having time to put it on when someone's breaking into your home, with a suppressed 300 Blackout, you really don't have to worry about that. The other thing about 300 Blackout is it is designed to be effective out of a short barrel. So you're not really, losing terminal ballistics by going with something really short like you are with 5.56. It's also not going to be as loud as concussive, again, especially with the suppressor. But it was designed to be in CQB type weapons. In fact, it was designed specifically to replace the MP5 for special operations guys. It's a rifle round that works in a, subgun size package, and it works very well. I like the SBR setup with a vertical foregrip and a stock, but again, you can do this with a pistol brace and no foregrip or an angled foregrip just fine. A good reliable light and red dot optic. I mean, this thing, if I had to use it in the middle of the night, especially with this big window and the circle dot EOTech style reticle, it just comes up and picks up very naturally, especially on the riser. I've spent a lot of time getting this thing set up exactly how I want it for home defense. It's got Geisley's single stage trigger in it, so there's no take up. It's a very fast trigger. It's reliable. It's quiet because of the suppressor. Now, this isn't the biggest, most quiet suppressor in the world. In fact, it's a very compact one. And so it isn't as quiet as 300 Blackout can possibly be, but it is hearing safe. And when I'm in a home defense situation, that's all I really care about. It's not going to damage my hearing. It's short, it's maneuverable, even with the suppressor on it. It's light, and it just plain works. AR controls, natural to just about anybody that shoots regularly. This is something that's easy to train on, easy to get used to, easy to use. The ergonomics are about as good as they get for any gun. I think that a short suppressed 300 Blackout is the ultimate home defense gun. Now you've heard my top 5 picks for home defense guns. What is your ultimate home defense gun? Please let me know down in the comments, because I'm always curious to hear what you guys have to say. And, this is just my opinion, but it's something that I've put a lot of thought and effort into. And in fact, specifically built out some of these guns just to be set up very well for home defense. And the reason for that is that I'm not in the military, I'm not in law enforcement. Many of us civilians, if we ever are going to have to use our firearms for anything other than fun at the range, the two biggest possibilities are going to be your carry gun, something like that, self-defense situation happening away from the home, or it's going to be home defense. That's probably the most likely real scenario that you might ever actually have to use your gun defensively. And so in my opinion, it's worth putting some thought and some time into, because you're not very likely to ever have to use one of your guns in self-defense, which is really good. But if you are, it might be a home defense type of deal. And so you might as well really have a good home defense setup. For me, that's just 300 Blackout, but all of the other ones that I said on this list, I think would work great. And if you have any of those kinds of options in your personal collection, then I think you're already doing pretty well. But let me know what you think. And if you think that it is a 12 gauge shotgun, let me know why down in the comments. Tell me why I'm wrong. I love to interact with you guys. I love to hear from you guys, and I try to reply to as many comments as I can. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like. Please subscribe to Sawtooth Tactical. Share this video with anyone that you know that thinks that you think they need this type of information in their lives. And from Sawtooth Tactical, stay strapped or get clapped.